first and foremost is this, that when you get to this point that you're able to trust, you are able to take the step. You are able to take the step because you've built yourself to that level that you are able to hold the vision, and at the same time you're able to hold the contrast, because this is when you step into this realm, is that, you know, the laws of the universe, one of my favorite laws is the law of polarity, because polarity is magic.
Welcome back to my channel. I'm so grateful and excited that you come back here to learn and grow. Today, I'm having a guest. Her name is Fabiana Koti. With a successful career spanning 3 continents, Fabiana Koti thrived as an international business strategist, having advised an array of global enterprises from Sony to BHP Billiton. In 2017, Fabiana decided to invest in her personal development, and by participating in Bob Proctor's Thinking into Results program, she witnessed firsthand the complete benefits of reshaping her mind to achieve what she really wanted from life. This inspired her to flex her offerings as a strategist and mentor by fusing neuroscience and psychology, quantum mechanics, and human behavior awareness to help both individuals and businesses leverage their true potential. Fabiana uses her skills, experience, and passion to awaken the human spirit and empower as many minds as possible. So Fabiana, welcome to my show, and I'm so grateful that you agreed to do this with me, and I'm so excited to interview you today. Thank you.
You're very welcome. So happy to be here and happy to share and happy to really convey a lot of my ideas and the work that I do to your audience.
Yeah, thank you so much. I would really love to know, you are working as a mentor and as a coach with these executives and corporations, and you are working on self-leadership. And I don't think a lot of people actually are familiar with the word self-leadership. Can you define the word self-leadership, please?
Absolutely, yes. Well, self-leadership is all about radical responsibility, taking full responsibility of all the results that a leader is experiencing in the business or in their lives. So self-leadership is about empowerment, self-empowerment. I lead myself first so I can lead others. So, you know, in my experience, so my background is corporate. So I've worked all my life in big corporations. In Japan, I lived in Japan for many years. So I worked for Sony and Toyota. And then I moved to Australia. I now worked for massive mining companies, oil and gas companies. And I started to see a pattern around dysfunctional leadership. And dysfunctional leadership is only about management, managing people, managing results, right? And there is a distinct difference between managing and leading. You need both. So what I see is a major gap everywhere about leadership. And most important, self-leadership, taking radical responsibility for all the results that you experience in your team and in your business. So it begins from there, really. Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds really interesting, because when we think about leading or as a boss in a company, we think that we have to manage people, we have to manage the task, but it's actually more than that. And it sounds like it can apply to our life as well, not just business.
Absolutely. You know, self-leadership, when you start to have the embodiment of self-leadership, what happens is you begin to shift so much limiting beliefs, so much roadblocks that a lot of leaders experience in life and in business. You know, we can't necessarily separate personal life and business. We think we can, but we actually can't, right? So who you are everywhere, really, you know. And this is a major awareness that I think, you know, few leaders have. Leaders who have become self-aware, they are magnificent leaders, and they are really able to call leadership within other people as well. So they are able to empower their teams. They are able to inspire their teams to achieve a result as a group, not manage the outcome. You know what I mean? Like it's you need management, but you don't just manage something. You have to be able to lead yourself with integrity, with the values that will uphold the vision. So, and as you begin to embody leadership, you begin to really rise to a standard that you perhaps may have never considered, or maybe only expected of others, but never expected of yourself. So, maybe you have heard like people talk about their bosses, and you're like, oh, my boss did this, like he's an idiot, blah, 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 right? And all of that. So we have these expectations of other people, but self-leadership is about bringing that expectation to yourself. Rise yourself to the standard that you expect from other people. Now you are in the game. Now you're able to really shift the results. You're really able to inspire greatness from within yourself and other people, because it's a mirror, right? The world is a mirror. So if I'm noting all these different qualities, very low qualities of other people, my boss, my team, the business that I'm working in, or my own business, those low qualities are in myself. Those low results are in myself. So taking radical responsibility will help you. This is the first gate. So I work with 8 gates of initiation of self-leadership. So those gates will help people like really tap into the power that's within themselves. And now they're able to really rise up to the standards that they always wanted. Yeah.
Yeah. I can see that it's so important to take the responsibility yourself first, and then look within rather than pointing out what's wrong outside.
Yes. Yeah. And it's not about self-blaming either. It's not about self-predication either. It's not about that. So it's using your power to create rather than destroy, because the power we can use for both, to either destroy or create. So now, like, instead of like self-deprecation or self-blame, self-shaming, a lot of leaders have self-shaming as well. When the results doesn't look like they wanted, or the team has produced a result that it's unsatisfactory. So there's a lot of self-shame, self-guilt. So underneath this, very underneath, right? So very deep into the surface. So we're looking at really getting, qualities that's able to hold all of those emotions like shame, guilt, and be able to transmutate them into power, into self-empowerment, into like, I'm going to lead myself first as I expect other people to show up. I'm going to show up first. So a self-leadership person that's able to embody that quality will lead themselves first. I will do first. I will model first. So the expectation is, it's not out there, but it's within here. So it's a very different dynamic. And a lot of my clients is, they either have their own business, or they are in a management position, or they are acting as a CEO, or they owner of their own companies. And when we start this conversation, it's a major eye opener, because a lot of these people, they are very talented, very, very talented. But what happens is, like, all of us go to school, we all learn how to manage KPIs, how to manage balance sheets, how to manage your P&L, right? So it's all about that. And it's okay, you have to do those. But, there's this other element that needs to click in. And then when it clicks in, it's just magic, because then the leader is able to emerge, and it's pure power. And the result that they get is really, I will speak from my own results. When I started to apply this with my own life in my own projects, because I do manage projects as well sometimes, it's phenomenal because I don't put the expectation on my team. You know, I put the expectation on myself, and I model that expectation for myself, and then I call those qualities from my team, and then they're able to rise within their greatness. And it's just magical because everybody's able to work cohesively and deliver a result that everybody wants. You know, nobody wants to fail, everybody wants to succeed. So it's just understanding that it's not about pushing people, forcing people, blaming people, but really experience that synergy in business and in teams as well.
Yeah, I can see it's so beautifully explained, and I can see that when you take responsibility and when you rise yourself and you expect greatness from yourself, then it is also like a mirror that your team and the people you work with actually rise up to your level, and the quality actually gets higher, and it's really like the mirror of what's happening within yourself. And I can see that, yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, because there are some steps to get to expecting high from yourself and getting amazing results. And I think going back to the first step, or before that, I think a lot of people are affected by so much negativity because of COVID, because of whatever the situation that they're going through, that they don't even know how to go about it, how to find a way out. And they don't even know the word self-limiting beliefs or paradigm, anything like that. And how, maybe with your experience or your client's experience, how did they actually take this first step of realizing, hey, I need to take responsibility myself. It's not about outside, it's actually coming from within. How do they realize that part?
Well, some people realize through experience, you know, being beaten up by life. Some people like really get beaten up by life, really, you know, circumstances, and they go like, what's going on? You know, like what's, like, I experienced that, you know, I was being beaten up by life, and I'm like, what's going on? Something is wrong. And the common denominator in all of this is only me. Right. So there's that organic element that some people are able to like get to that conclusion. And some others, you know, these are the people that I mostly work with, is the people who are invested in self growth. They are invested in producing the best. They are invested in creating the best version of themselves. They are invested in creating the best life for themselves and for their business as well. So that begins there, right? So with the commitment that I want to create greatness, that is this desire within the person that is there. That's an innate thing, right? So you don't need to be like being thrown into the bushes or in the bottom of a pit, you know, that your circumstances is so dark that, you know, then you have to call in for help. You know, and I think though that journey for some people is necessary, and I acknowledge that, and I respect that. But then, you know, there is this journey to then climb up. And, you know, if I was helping someone in that sort of situation, first step is to really feel everything that needs to be felt, you know. And in the community of law of attraction, people are very scared of feeling bad feelings, negative feelings, right? So they're very scared of feeling negative emotions. So when you get to that level of low, you know, depression and like lost and grief because you just have no way out anymore, you have to stay there and feel everything until there's nothing else to be felt. So, and then you are able to start rising up. So, and one of the qualities that whoever is helping that person, if I was helping that person, is bringing empathy rather than sympathy. right? So sympathy versus empathy is very important for someone who's helping, that person in that situation to really come in, as if I was in that situation. How would I would like to be seen? Because that person needs to be seen, and it needs to be, embraced for that moment. Yeah. So it's very important to begin there. And then, just allow, because naturally our natural state is joy, love, happiness. So once you are able to really acknowledge, okay, so I'm in the bottom of this pit, that's fine. I'm okay. I'm going to be okay. I'm always okay. Right. So now you begin to change your self-talk, and instantly you see your energy rising. So that is what that aspect. Now, for the people that I work with, when they are committed, which is a joy, because I love commitment. I love people who are committed with the results that they want to achieve, and they're committed to doing the work, because that's the thing. I'm, as a mentor or as a coach, I cannot do the work for them. I can't feel the feelings. I can't go inside themselves and do the work that needs to be done. They have to do it. I'm only a guide. So, and my job is to hold steady that vision, right, that we established for our time together, right? So is to hold that energetics, hold the vision, and help them calibrate to that. So calibration here is like you say, so there is this gap, right? So I'm here now and I want to achieve this goal. There's a gap. So what we have to do energetically, I have to help them calibrate to this version that they want to become. So there is an energetic work, there is an embodiment work that we do at the same time with self-leadership. So it begins with that, creating that vision, creating that end goal. Who is the person, who is the leader that you see yourself becoming? And from there that's that journey that we start taking. That takes 8 months.
Wow. Yeah, there's so much that I also I think I rise so high after I went through some hardships or really difficult time. And I love that you mentioned that you allow yourself to feel the emotions. It sounds almost like validating all the emotions that come up rather than suppressing or rejecting it. And that's actually the way, because I think I used to also think that these negative emotions I have to ignore or just reject them because I shouldn't feel them and I don't want to. But to actually allow them to evaporate or disappear and then come to this, what you mentioned, this natural state of joy and happiness, actually you need to validate, you need to embrace them. And I think it's actually really hard for some people to do, especially when they're hitting the bottom and they're depressed. And how do you guide them to embrace these emotions?
Well, the first step to really help them embrace those emotions is to hold space, create the space where it's allowed to be and feel and, really express those emotions in that container, in that sacred space that we create together, and really allow those emotions to rise and not feel the shame. So when the shame comes up, because the first thing that comes up is the shame and guilt will come in to shut down those emotions, right? So shame and guilt is that's what keeps the lead on those negative beliefs. So because when they start to rise, like we shame ourselves for feeling that, we feel guilty for feeling that, because or either we've been told that it's not right to feel this way, or we don't have the right to feel this way because look at the world, look at this, you are in such a better position, although you're feeling like this, but there's so much worse in the world, right? So we shame our emotions, and by doing that, then I don't have the right to feel this, so I'm going to put in the box and hide it away, right? So the first step is to creating that safe space where shame is not going to be the leading energy in the room, right? So the leading energy in the room or in the container that we are in, it's all about acceptance. Acceptance is the key when you are in the sacred container, because you have to accept everything that rises up. Because when it rises up, it means that it's rising up for release. So it's rising up for first acceptance and then release, because it wants to be released. It wants to be let free. You know, when I was doing that for myself, and my coach was holding space for me, it was intense. It is an intense journey for the person who's actually allowing the emotions to surge and then allow them to like be expressed fully without any limitation, you know. So when I was able to allow myself to really go there, you know, allow myself to go to the place where it was hard for me to feel those emotions, it was a breath of fresh air afterwards, because it was like I released like 50-kilo backpack that I was carrying around, you know, and it was incredible. Now, for my clients, it's when I'm holding space for any kind of emotion that rises up like this, I feel so honored. And I feel so blessed to be able to hold a space for someone else that once I was there, because I know how it feels, how hard it is. And it's a privilege for someone to hold space for somebody else. And the key is acceptance, accepting and being compassionate towards the person who's in the room, because it's the most sacred work I've ever done in my life, is helping others release those trapped emotions. And, you know, I actually do help them with a pre-work before they release, which is about tapping. I don't know if you're familiar with tapping. So tapping helps release that energetic charge. So the intensity of that, we are able to release before the emotion is fully risen. So as you start to tap, the emotion intensity, you know, goes down a little bit, because the body, it's intense when you start to release that amount of really trapped emotion that's been there for years, maybe even lifetimes, you know. So we're looking at an emotional charge that's very intense for the body. Like if you've experienced like emotional release in your life, you feel your body becomes exhausted after that, because of the whole charge. It's our body is electricity, like it's got electricity, magnetic electricity in the body. So it's intense. Yeah.
Wow, the whole process sounds so liberating, and also it sounds like the people who you work with actually trust you, because you create this safe space for them to actually go through these emotions. And I can see that in this space, beautiful things happen, and they're able to release all these negative emotions, and that's really beautiful. And after releasing their emotions, and I think you work with a lot of business people, and I think the outcome is to get more profits, and I want my team to be more productive, and things like that is something that they see tangible. And how do you work from there by after releasing their negative emotions, and in order to really take full responsibility for themselves, and then rise to become the person that they really want to become?
You know, so there's two things really that we work. So there is the results, the tangible results, and the internal work, right? So the results itself, the tangible results, is like that management. So it's management versus leadership. So they are very good at managing the results. So I don't need to teach them how to manage things. So they are very good at that. So what I really focus on, and it's their ability to hone in, they own ability to hold themselves into a standard. So because like as they hold themselves to a standard, that gets mirrored into their results, because they will act differently, they will behave differently, they will do things differently, right? So with those 8 gates that we work together, so I'm going to give you like what they are. So first is full responsibility. The second gate is wisdom. The third gate is value. The fourth gate is courage. These are all about, self, right? And then the gate of purpose. So now now this is the middle way. So purpose. Now we're going to like start going into more of the whole, and embracing more of a of the collective, the business, the teams, and so on. So now we're going to look at how to activate the heart integrity. This is really powerful, the heart integrity, because this is where you start to see major shift in life, when you start to actually get the gate of the heart. How to align your heart and mind together is the key, because most of us want one thing and then your heart is moving in another direction. But the thing is, like, the heart will always win, but it's a struggle when you're moving towards 2 different targets. And that's what causes a lot of frustration, a lot of stress, anxiety in the body. So, and then we look at the gate of connection, how we are able to connect with other people, how we are able to ignite other people, because I'm not looking at telling people what to do. I'm inspiring them to rise within their greatness. So because they know what to do, they were contracted to do a specific job, right? They have their job description. We have meetings every day. I don't need to tell them what to do. That's management. It's already there. It's already done, dusted. It's the mechanics of the business. If a business is set up right, this stuff is already there for them to know. So what's missing is this level of connection with the team, with the business, with the clients as well. So, and then we move into the gate of trust, because this is where now you're able to trust not only other people, but trust yourself. Trust yourself with your vision, with your self integrity, with your self alignment, with your self belief. And first and foremost is this, that when you get to this point that you're able to trust, you are able to take the step. You are able to take the step because you've built yourself to that level that you are able to hold the vision. And at the same time, you're able to hold the contrast. Because this is when you step into this realm, is that, the laws of the universe. So one of my favorite laws is the law of polarity, because polarity is magic, but it can be very, very painful, because you're constantly choosing this or that, right? Polarity is not to be, worked like that. It's to be this and this. So a leader, when he's able to get to the level of trust that's required, he or she's able to, they're able to, hold the contrast within the same intensity. And not just like, look at this is negative, I want just the positive. So they are able to embrace both. And that's what power is. Power is not choosing, but accepting everything. So, so when you look at, for example, a business who's really in trouble with their results, right? And I follow a lot of companies, and I look at their results and how they going, and they profit and so on. because it's just my interest. I like to see that because it's a mirror how the leadership internally is performing. So, you know, when I look at it, and then I look, so I'll give you an example, like Virgin Australia, you know, was in trouble. And I've been following them for quite some time, and they changed their leadership a few times. And then I could see the impact of that change in the results. And it wasn't a very good results. And then when you look at who's in management and you know, they level of experience and they level like where they came from and everything, so you can see how the leadership impacts the results. So it's about people. Business is about people, not about results. So we think that business is all about money, profit and loss, and, you know, quantities and so on. Those are only the results of something else. And what is that something else? Is people. And that's my passion, is working with people, helping people rise to their greatness so they can become self-leaders. They need to lead themselves first to be able to lead everybody else. Because again, like, people don't follow people necessarily. They follow people's vision because they believe in something, right? So we think that, you know, I will follow you or my boss or something, like, unless there is a very deep connection there. But again, connection with what? Has to have a purpose, a vision. And that's what those gates go through, like establishing that. And self-leadership is rooted in communication. How do you communicate all of this within yourself and then outwards? How you communicate within yourself determines how you're going to communicate outwards with other people, because it's a mirror. And because most of our communications are unconscious. So 95% of our communications come from the subconscious mind. So our conscious mind, like our words and thoughts, it's only 5% of what create reality. So, you know, we're dealing with everything is hidden in the subconscious mind. So what's in there will come out. That's why we have to be able to really release those negative emotions, release negative self-belief, and then start to build that vision for yourself so you can lead with your vision, right? So you can't lead with something that it's not yours, or that you think is good, or that you think that's what you should do, but that's not what you actually want to do. So yeah. It's really exciting work.
Yes, and vision, it sounds like they have to really care about their vision, because otherwise subconscious, you can't put that in your subconscious. That actually leads to your actions, how you communicate, and they have to be emotionally involved in that vision. And like you said, the company is actually the collection of people, not the things or the things to do. But I think, unfortunately, I think a lot of people think that my business is not going well because I need to do more. I need to, maybe I'm in the wrong industry, or things like that. Like, they're looking at outside rather than inside of themselves. And I think, why do you think that people are looking outside more often than inside? And also, how do you think they can change the perspective to really look within and work on their vision and purpose, rather than things that they need to do?
Well, first of all, we forgot who we are. That is the main thing. That's why we look outside, right? So we forgot who we are. And the minute that we start to look outside for answers, we are lost. We are completely lost, because we're going to be lost with the results, with the circumstances, with people, with events, and the list goes on. And you know, we start looking outside of us, because that's how we perceive the world. We perceive the world with those the two eyes we have, right? And the five senses. So that's how we perceive the world. So we think it's happening outside of us. Now, but neuroscience, quantum physics has proven that that's not the case, right? So the way matter is constructed is by the observer. So who's the observer? Is the presence who's behind the eyes. So my job is to help them reconnect with that presence, right? So through those 8 gates is to help them reconnect with the presence that is perceiving reality through the eyes that I'm looking through. So because the presence that's actually perceiving reality, once you go back to that center, then you regain your ability to actually see reality different and construct reality different, because you constantly constructing it, so knowingly or unknowingly. So the beginning of everything is to know, actually this level of training that I do is really like the person has gone through my other courses as well, so they know that who they are, right? Because I mean, to take full responsibility is hard if you don't know who you are, because you're going to be sitting there going, but Fabiana, my manager, did this, that. My management team did this. They're not achieving their results, so it's their fault, not mine, right? But we forget who we are. So my goal, if I was working with someone who was completely unaware of that, my goal then is to help them realize how reality is created and where their role really is in that creative process, right? So how things are actually manifesting in their world. So my role then begins there. So if I was working with someone who didn't have any idea, so first you need to be conscious of who you are, because then you're able to unleash the power that's sitting within yourself. And I think that's why we see a dysfunctional world. But saying that, when I say, like, when I look at the world and I see, like, man, this is so dysfunctional, that's my ego, that's my human mind, my brain looking at the contrast. Okay, so and this is like my self-awareness, because I have to look at there is this part of me, but that there is this higher part of me as well. This other part of me look at the world in black and white, this or that, right? So there's this function and there's peace, right? But if I go back to my higher self, into my heart center, into my inner wisdom, I will see that that's not true. The world is not necessarily dysfunctional. That's only a perception that the world is dysfunctional. Because if you go back inside and actually close your eyes and see things for what they are behind the scenes, nothing is wrong, right? There is nothing bad happening in the world. There's only a perception of it. And as soon as we are able to reclaim that, everything else begins to dissolve. But we're talking about like collective consciousness here as well. So, one can become incredibly powerful and become incredibly self-aware, that can change a lot of these, like Buddha, Confucius, Jesus. They were like one of the pioneers of like becoming the one who's able to embody such a power that can shift the collective perception. So any of us can do that. Any of us can rise up to higher, right? Rise higher and look at things for, what they really are in their essence, not from the polarity side of things, this or that, negative, positive. Then we are constantly swinging between the two. And it's very unpleasant to swing between the two constantly. And that's why we see the rise and fall of many countries, of many systems, because of this, because of the swing of the polarity, because we think this is good over this is better over this. And we constantly doing this swing, then, it's just creating more and more of this polarity, black and white thing. And to be honest, like, things are not black and white, you know. Things are way more complex, and there's many nuances in between because of the perception. Hopefully that answers the question, because it's very hard to sort of say like, this is why we, you know, business experience or negative results, or and why they focus on that. It's just because I really think it's because we've forgotten who we are. And once you remember, you are able to collect all the pieces that's been scattered throughout time of your own perception, because it's just a perception. It's just literally a perception.
Yeah, you answered my question really beautifully, and I can see that the perception of judging something good or bad, or 0% or 100% black white, like I think that's easy for our brain to understand, because it's either or. But it's more about what you mentioned. It's actually more and it's a gray and a lot of nuance between, and that's the truth. But it's probably hard for our brain to understand. Is it, you know, 60%, 70%? It's actually between, and it's like you said, swing. It's always changing, like the nature. So it's hard to grasp, it's hard to understand, because you have to be kind of on the wave as well, like swinging as well. And I think the metaphor that you used was really beautifully described. And yeah, thank you for explaining that.
Awesome, that's good.
And if you're comfortable talking about this, I would love to know your personal experience as well, how you came across this self leadership. And I think that's what you mentioned became your purpose, and that's how you help people now, right now. And yeah, how did you find out this self leadership?
Well, my background, as I mentioned, is corporate. So I've been working in corporate for a long time, and I've always worked with like middle management and upper management in businesses. And you know, leadership has always been one of my passions, because it's one of those things. When you are when you are in a corporation, it seems very, very, very dysfunctional, uncomfortable, lots of politics, lots of nuances, you know, and then there is the culture as well. And so when I started to really look at leadership itself, and I started to look at who I worked with that inspired me the most, who I worked with, who enabled me to come to the table with my skills, who invited my skills to the table, who invited my greatness to the table, rather than saying to me, Fabiana, you need to develop this area. You need to do this. You need to do that. Have you done this? Have you done that? Right? So that's when I started to separate like management and leadership. So, you know, maybe from other people's perception, that leader who invite people's skills to the table may look like they are very good at delegating. They lazy. They are, you know, they don't do much because the whole team is doing the work. But that's what a leader needs to do, right? So the leader is there to calibrate, to hold the vision, to hold the energetics of the vision, so everybody else can contribute. Because me having this vision, I can't do that by myself. I can't do the vision by myself. I need a team. I need like other people. So when I started to see who were inviting me to the table with my best skills versus who were just telling me what I needed to do, right? And that's when I started to really hone in on the energetics, how I felt when I was being invited to the table versus when I was being told to do things. And I started to separate the energetics. I started to separate my feelings, how I felt about myself, how I felt about my co-workers. And that's when this sort of started to develop within myself, because then I was able to lead my work with my best, not lead my work with task, with all the list that I had to do. I wouldn't start my day with, yes, I have to do all of this. I would start my day with this, okay, so how can I best serve all the things that we have upcoming? How can I best show up? How can I best put my skills here or there? So then I'm coming up with ideas and sharing with the team, and we are collaborating. And then, if another co-worker needs my help, I'm also willing to step in and help for the greater success. So that was the foundation of when I started to see things emerging within me from a business perspective, because I was in the business working, and then I started to see these differences of different leaders in the business. Then I started to then create the program, and put the very details, how the different gates, what do they offer, and then I started to look at disruptive leadership. So, which is fascinating. Like, you see, like, how Airbnb, came into the picture, Uber. This is all about disruptive leadership. They came into the market not necessarily with a new thing, but they innovative. So disruptive leadership is when you're looking at innovation, not necessarily creating anything new, because everything is already created, right? So everything is just energy. What you're doing is just like combining things differently. That's all. So, and bringing disrupted leadership into this program, into this learning, into this container, is very empowering for someone who's just sitting with their skills, with their dreams, and hiding them. If they are invited to the table to bring that and show their best, now we're talking, creating magic, creating things that we are going to see things that we've never seen in our lifetime, because people are being empowered to really bring their best to the table.
Wow. So the leaders that you are working with really inspired you to really live up to your full potential, and you saw that your perception changed, not to do all the tasks during the day, but having a vision of the leader and starting a day with, how can I serve best? And that is just so different. Even like myself, thinking about when I was in the company, I was always starting with starting a day with, okay, I have to do this, and that was it. And that's obviously not motivating. And I think a lot of people think that, oh, our employees are not motivated, or they're not productive, and what can I do? And they always think that, oh, maybe we have to raise their salary, or we have to have a tea break, 15-minute a day, or something that they can do outside, rather than like, okay, what's my vision? How am I leading them? Like, they're not looking at themselves, and they're always looking outside. And I can definitely
Yes. Exactly. So you touched on something pretty interesting, which is about motivation. So I like to see that motivation is cheap. Motivation is it's not it, really. What you're looking for in business and in life is inspiration, because inspiration is to be in spirit, right? So you want to be inspired. So that's a calling. Because motivation is very short-lived. It's like you're going on a diet. You go on a diet for a week, and then the second week is like, oh no, I'm just going to go back to the same thing that I was doing, right? It's just easy. That's what now we're talking about paradigms here. So paradigms will control your life if you're expecting to be motivated. So paradigms will control that realm. So because you just, it's those bursts of energy that you are relying on. You're not relying on a vision. A vision, when it's well constructed and it's held in its integrity, you are being inspired by the vision. You're not being inspired or motivated by the day-to-day things, because day-to-day things is old story, old news. It's already happened. So you're looking for inspiration in your life and in your business, because motivation will be short-lived. And that's what you see, business coming with those initiatives, like, as you said, like 15-minute break or salary raise and so on. Those are management like strategies and tactics, right? So those will only short-lived. They will be short-lived because people will be out of motivation. That is certain, that people will be not motivated forever just because of money or just because of that 15-minute break. No, it's not going to do it. It's not going to do the work. That's the realm of management. So that's when you start to see this contrast playing into the business, when they are only managing the business. They're not igniting this whole world where the power really is, which is vision, inspiration, leadership. You see what Steve Jobs did for Apple when he came in with the iPhone and the iPod, right? So at the time I was working for Sony, and was incredible to see the level of innovation that was happening in Apple and what we were doing at Sony at that time. And when I look at that, and it's just, when I look back and see how this, like the work that I'm doing now, like, and I see these two differences, and it's very, very clear to me that innovation, leadership was always part of Steve Jobs' vision, to create something that was not just to get the business going, but to create something completely revolutionary, completely new. And that's what we're talking about here. Like, being inspired by a vision is not being motivated, right? So motivation is just going to get you the status quo, maintain the status quo. That's it. So that's really what you start to see in leadership when a leader is born, when a leader is so like inspired by his vision, his or her vision, that's what they will accomplish, and is very powerful.
Wow, that makes total sense. And yeah, using the inspiration rather than motivation. And when I can see that when people are inspired and they just naturally want to contribute to their leader's vision, and they don't need motivation because they want to, like that's naturally like coming up by getting inspired by the leader's vision. And yeah, that sounds more healthy, and it just sounds more natural, like there's no force.
That's it. Yes. Yeah. And there's no force. And also, each one of us has this little seed that's dormant inside, waiting for the moment that call comes in, and the call is the vision. I'm here, my skills that is inside me is to serve the greater good. And that's called by a vision. Someone's holding a vision that then I can serve. My skill set will serve to bring that vision into light, to bring that vision into the world. That's then the purpose is fused of why my existence, why I'm here. Why do I want to get up in the morning and do what I want to do in my life? Because it serves this vision. So I'm not doing my job. I'm not going to work because I want to just pay my bills now. Now is beyond that, right? So now the leader who's holding that vision and be able to articulate that vision is calling greatness from others. It's calling someone's purpose, calling someone's skill set that only that person is here to do. That's when magic is like created in the business. That's when magic is born within an environment, within a container, because they are able to hold the vision. You see, not many leaders are able to hold the vision because of their own shit that's going on inside. They can't hold the vision because there is the vision that they want for that they have this dream, and then there's all the other stuff, and then there's the business as well that's not going so well, and then there's this chaos within them. So we have to sort of like learn how to, you know, clear some of the clutter, but also embrace it all, because as you rise up, more of the chaos, because chaos is part of nature. You know, like if you go into jungle, it's not like, oh, pretty, everything is in its place. No, it's everything everywhere. So you have to be able to rise to that standard, that level of chaos, and be okay and hold it all. And that's like the capacity of energetics, of holding oneself in leadership. That's what the leader needs to really be able to do. It's about that enabling themselves to hold contrast, because that gate, the last gate of trust, that's it. That's when the person is able to hold it all. And you have to hold it all to have it all. Yeah.
Yes, yes. Wow. Yeah, I can see that trusting, because I feel like when people's business is not going well and they started working on themselves, and okay, I know how to release my negative emotions and release the self-limiting beliefs, and now I know what to do and I'm taking responsibility. Yes, I'm, you know, my business is going to go well. And then I feel like they probably expect everything to go well, or they expect the positive things to start happening, and only positive things. But as you said, nature is actually really chaotic, and embracing everything, like you mentioned, trusting positive and negative, and everything that's happening for you is actually more natural, and that's what you need to do to rise to that higher self.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I became aware of this when I started to work with CEOs, so with major corporations. So I wasn't coaching, but I was doing advisory work for them. And the level of contrast and the level of maturity that they are able to embody is phenomenal. That's why they're able to be in that position. It's not for what they do, but for who they are. Able to hold pressure. They are able to really stand firm in the face of adversity. So they don't crumble in the face of pressure when they're facing pressure. So, and they're able to think, and they're able to move through it. And that's like the key, right? So they have this level of self-awareness and self-belief that is beyond the chaos, you know, that because they accept that chaos is necessary for them to navigate. They know how to navigate nature. They know how to navigate life. That's why they are in that position. So now if you bring that back into your own life, right? So, you know, life is all constantly happening, constantly unfolding, and may not be constantly unfolding to your own expectations. Like, you know, everything should be ponies and rainbows and glitter and all that, right? Parties, fireworks. Yeah, there is that, absolutely. And there is the opposite. So if you cut the opposite, you can't have the good, because polarity is equally the same, 50-50. If I cut that off, I'm cutting the other side off. And this is what most people don't understand when they come into the studies of law of attraction, self-development, you know, creating your own reality is just about positive thinking and creating everything the way I want it. And if it doesn't, then something's wrong with the way I'm creating, right? So now I'm self-shaming myself, and this cycle continues, right? And that's what I see. I see a lot of self-shaming because I don't get the results, because I'm doing all of these things and I'm still not getting the results. So I'm doing like, all of that, but I'm not getting the results. So something must be wrong with me. So I must be doing something wrong. Yeah. And that's when you start to see, well, okay, right. So they've chosen one side of the polarity and constantly swings to one side or the other. And that's when you in both extremes. The key is to go into the middle. You embrace both. When something bad happens, this is always happening for me. Life is always happening for me. Life is always unfolding for me. So you develop a different self-talk. You develop a different approach to life, because it is always, life is always happening for you. This is not a maleficent universe. This is a beneficent universe, right? But there is two energies that this universe really works with. There's positive and negative polarities, which must be embraced at the same time equally.
Yeah, yeah, that's really beautifully explained. I think the last question I have is, what can people do today to probably take the first step to, for the people who feels like life is happening to them and it's almost like against of what they really want, and they don't know what they need to do, and yeah, what can they do today to take the first step?
Okay. What comes up for me is that to have self-compassion, to have self-acceptance to begin with, self-love, start looking at your life as a masterpiece that you're constructing. Start looking at your life as a garden that you cultivating. Sometimes there's some weeds that you have to clean out. Sometimes you have to, you know, um, pull out the plants and then replant things. Start looking at your life like that. Don't look at your life as something that is just solid that you can't change, and looking at that it should be this way and I don't have any power, right? So first, really start looking at yourself with self-compassion and self-appreciation for where you are now, and then take the perspective that your life is a masterpiece. You're constructing, you're building this every day, and then imagine your life as a garden that you're building. You're creating beauty in your life. And there are times that you have to replant. There's times that you have to cultivate. There's times that you have to water. There are times that you have to do pruning. So, and there's season for everything. Nothing is constant. Where you are now is not going to be there forever. So might as well be there and enjoy where you are there now, even though it might be painful. Just find joy where you are, because you're not going to find joy anywhere else other than where you are now. Took me a while to understand this. And if you're not able to find joy where you are now, you're just fooling yourself, because you're not going to find it later. And you might get to where you think you need to be and realize that was never that. Joy, satisfaction, love, it's always an inside job. It's never something outside of you. So your life is only a reflection of how you are inside. So begin to cultivate your self-talk. Look at your self-talk again, like that's the garden analogy, right? So look at how you're talking to yourself. When you make a mistake, how do you say to you, like, what do you say to yourself? Oh, I'm so stupid, I shouldn't have done that, right? So is that how you talk to yourself? Change that talk. I made a mistake. Wow, I'm learning from this. I'm learning so much. This is so good. Thank you. Thank you. Now I know, right? Not like how things this way may not work, right? So now I know that this is not working. So, okay, fantastic. Thank you. This is a feedback. Now I can try something else. I can try this, I can try that. And this is about self-resourcefulness. So you become resourceful within yourself and within the environment that you are in right now. And that's how you start to rise.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. Bringing compassion and self appreciation to your self talk, and yeah, I can see that. Mm.
Yes, 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 absolutely. It's the key to start there, self-compassion. And um, because we are so hard in ourselves, like we self-judge ourselves. That's why the world judge us, because we self-judge ourselves. So, and it's painful. That's where pain comes from, really. It's an internal, um yeah, there's this internal dichotomy that happens within all of us. And even now I'm aware of this, I still catch myself trying to shame myself. That part of us never goes away. You just become aware of it, right? And you learn how to embrace it and how to love it and appreciate it. So don't think that you're going to cut that part of yourself off, because you're not. That part of you actually serves to bring you to your humbleness. It actually keeps you humble, because if you're constantly just like, doing everything right, it's not good for you. Because again, remember, there's polarity. You need the negative to have the positive. You're never going to get rid of this, like this yuckiness that you may feel. You're going to have that, but you're going to be able to embrace it and hold it with love and appreciation, rather than trying to cut it off and trying to move it away, to throw it away, hide it away, because that's not there for that. It's there to actually help you be humble within yourself, to have self-love so you can love others. If you can't love yourself, even in those moments, how can you love someone else? Right? So this is the key here. Like we see so much pain and so much negativity in the world, is because we don't embrace that within ourselves. We want to cut it off, and we can't. We can never cut it off. We just have to be able to, again, equalize. Is that scales? The scales needs to be balanced. And when it's in balance, balancing those scales is about embracing that side of you that feels shame, that feels guilty at times, that feels sorrow, that feels pain. Embrace that and love it, because that is the part of you that makes you human. So yeah, hopefully that helps.
Yes, it's so beautiful, and yeah, I'm learning so much from you that I'm really hard on myself often. So it's a constant work, and it's
Mhm.
not to cut off. It's like always work with it and bringing love, compassion, and appreciation into it. And yeah, it's so beautiful. Thank you so much,
Yes,
Fabiana, for this interview. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
you're very welcome. You're very welcome.